Thursday, May 11, one day before the third quarter moon. It's about 9:10. You can see Venus up there. Man, Venus has been really hanging out over the last 5 or 6 months. Extraordinary. Jupiter's long disappeared. Mars is up there somewhere, probably in Gemini. Venus is probably at the foot of Gemini, and Mars near Castor and Pollux. Sky has been reasonably decent today. Arcturus is high in the sky, heading towards culmination in the next couple of hours. It's not quite sky dark. I can still see blue coloration in the atmosphere. I've been out to synchronize the scope to Arcturus, and right now I've got it at fairly fast shutter speed, and I think you can see M3 right there on the screen at 2 flood. Probably be another 10 or 15 minutes before sky dark, but I'd like to outline the plan for tonight. Probably the most condensed region of bright nearby galaxies is the Coma-Virgo galaxy group. Coma-Virgo galaxy group. I've got a list of about 30 galaxies, ranging from like the brightest is like M49 to a number of NGCs. They cover the range of anything from a 5-inch scope giving an optimal view to 12 inches in aperture. As you can see, my alignment's a little bit off. I'm going to have to resynchronize. And then in another 10 or 15 minutes, I should get a start on the galaxies. All these galaxies lie within about a 15 square degree region east of Denebola, which is the tail, second magnitude bright star of the tail of Leo. All the galaxies fall within either Coma-Berenices, slightly to the north, or Virgo, and they should all give quite decent views. Should be quite a marathon, however, to get the 30 or so I've got on my observing list in tonight. I'll try to limit the amount of time to about a minute on each study. And as in most of my videos, I'll probably add some commentary in the captions associated with these videos. So I'm going to go ahead now and set the scope up for galactic get the alignment with Denebola reset and resynchronized, and then go on to setting up the shutter speed to 128 flood, which gives about the views of a 16 or an 18-inch optical telescope, and all that with 6 inches of aperture and real-time CCD imaging. I just did a 3-star alignment to the east using Denebola, Arcturus, and Spica, and M3 is positioning itself reasonably close to the center of the field. And the reason I had to do it is because I wasn't confident that in a dense galactic region, the study I intended to video this evening with the handheld camera would actually be the one that was selected. So now I have greater confidence that when I go to, say, M49, it will in fact be Messier 49, as it should take up a spot within the middle third of the field of view of the screen. So, given the fact the sky is rapidly losing any dark sky color, any blue color, I think we're ready to begin with the first on the list, which I have right next to me. Okay, we begin with Messier 85, galaxy in Coma-Berenices, magnitude 9.1, 7.4 by 5.9 arc minutes, 60 million light years distance. This should be doesn't specify the class, but I suspect it's an elliptical galaxy, and it's actually right here on the screen, as you can see. Looks like there's another faint galaxy up there as well. This is our view. I would anticipate it being an elliptical, but because of the position of the scope right now, I'm not really getting a very good view of the galaxy itself. Very bright core with a halo around it. There may be some nodules associated with it. As I said, the specification for the class is not included in this database, so it's hard to determine. All right, so that be Messier 85. I can tell you right off, this next study is not a member of the Coma-Virgo galaxy group because it's a globular cluster in Coma-Berenices. NGC 4147, magnitude 10.3, a mere 4 arc minutes in size. The brightest star is magnitude 14.5, and it's 61,000 light years distant. Let's have that look. NGC 4147. I do believe there's a sprinkling of those 14.5 magnitude stars visible on the screen, although the viewing angle is very challenging for me right now with the scope. So there's our look. At magnitude 10.3, with bright stars as bright as 14.5, it's kind of, the brightest stars are obviating the convention that the brightest stars in the cluster are 6 magnitudes fainter than the cluster itself. Here we have something that's 4, so it's got some pretty brilliant stars in it, comprising it. The first galaxy was suitable for I believe, for an 8-inch scope. This one is more of a 12-inch scope in terms of minimum aperture that gets some kind of a decent view. The galaxy is NGC 4394. Its magnitude 10.9, 3.4 by 3.2 arc minutes. It's a spiral of barred, 56 million light year distant. Clearly a member of the Coma-Berenices Galaxy Club. And here's our look. All these galaxies will be in the 50 to 60 to 70 million light year distant. It's a larger cluster than our own and has more mature galaxies in it. Many of which will be ellipticals with a great deal of star formation and very little cold dark matter. It'll be interesting to get the mathematics on it. There's a galaxy down at the bottom. That could very well be it, but the alignments have been pretty good, and there's something smaller and fainter in the center, and I assume that's it because it's got spiral extensions. This next galaxy should give a decent view in a 10-inch scope. It's an NGC 4450, galaxy in Coma-Berenices, magnitude 10.1, 5.4 by 4.1 arc minutes, a spiral of class AB. It's 71 million light years distant, so it still falls within the range of the Coma-Berenices galaxy cluster. And the look we get is right there in the center of the field. Once again, I'm not really able to describe what we're seeing on the screen due to the fact that the ergonomics of me seeing the screen is limited. But it does look kind of roundish. I can't tell you whether there's spiral extensions or not, but if there are, they're shifted pretty much extended left and right off the main core of the galaxy. I'll have to review the video tomorrow to be sure. Our next galaxy is suitable for an 8-inch scope, Messier 88, galaxy in Coma-Berenices, magnitude 9.6, somewhat oblate, 6.8 by 3.7 arc minutes, 60 million light years distant. No annotation as to type. We'll have to figure that out for ourselves, but it does look rather distended, so it's probably a spiral. And see the spiral arms moving off towards the corners of the screen on the handheld camera. We'll sweep a little bit to improve the contrast at points. Not quite as present as the Leo Trio galaxies, M65, 66, and the NGC, but still a good look. My weight just shifted, so we kind of lost the clarity of the image. Moving on. Our next galactic study is Messier 100, another galaxy in Coma-Virgo, magnitude 9.4, a little larger than the previous one, 7.5 by 6.1 arc minutes. I would say this is probably pretty close to the size of the Andromeda galaxy. There's no specification as to type, 60 million light years distant. This is pretty much an average size. Oh, it looks like a nice face-on spiral. Messier 31 size face-on spiral galaxy. Very nice sweeping arms. Bright, slightly distended core. Takes up maybe a sixth of the screen. 3 or 4 arc minutes of it anyway are visible. That's our look. I've also noticed the battery is starting to deplete a little bit on the handheld. I doubt I can get through all 30 galaxies tonight, but maybe I can get through the first 15 or so. While Messier 100 was suitable for an 8-inch scope, Messier 91 is better fitted for a 10-inch. It's a galaxy, once again in the Coma-Virgo, magnitude 10.1, smaller, 5.2, 4 by 4.2, 60 million light years distant. This particular galaxy is once again quite face on, but you would never, I could never guess that from this image. It looks rather extended. It's falling right in the middle of the field, so I have pretty good confidence this is actually Messier 91. Perhaps, I can't see it on the handheld, there are some spiral extensions to account for its roughly square size of 5.2 by 4.2 arc minutes. But I can't tell that from where I'm seated. Messier 99, also a 10-inch study, galaxy in Coma-Virgo, slightly short of 10th magnitude, 9.9, 5.3 by 4.6, 60 million light years distant, probably a galaxy of about the size of our own Milky Way, maybe a little larger. And it's got some nice spiralicity, face-on galaxy. Look at that baby there. Elongated core section. Not quite a bar, but elongated, plus several spiral arms. Galaxy appears to be rotating from our point of view to the counterclockwise direction. It's interesting that astronomers really can't account for why we have spiral arms in galaxies, but I think with the revelations of dark matter, it probably can explain. Gravity is not really a point source. It actually could be more of a commutative type of galaxy. Gravity that's holding the spiral arms together and giving them their morphic shape. Very nice view. Okay, well now we're on to Messier 98. Galaxy, once again, in Coma-Virgo, right around the 10th magnitude, 10.1, large, 9.4 by 2.3, so presented obliquely at 60 million light years distant. Once again, no designation as to type. You can see right there that it's a near edge-on spiral. It appears to have some, from what I can tell, some H2 star-forming regions. Given its apparent size and distance, this baby's larger than Messier 31, maybe in the 200,000 light years diameter range, which is twice that of the Milky Way. So, a rather ponderous spiral galaxy, although they can get to be, galaxies can get to be, there was a spiral, I believe, I can't give you the NGC designation, it's about 1.5 million light years in diameter, but it mostly has very distended spiral arms, so to account for its size. Next we have NGC 4459, galaxy once again in Coma-Virgo, magnitude 10.4, a little smaller, 4 by 3.1 arc minutes, a spiral of lowercase a, I'm not sure what that means, 60 million light years distant. It's probably just a number they apply to most of these galaxies here, and our view is as seen on the screen. I must have shifted my weight a little bit. I really am liking the way the galaxies are centering on the go-to. 20 years ago, I was having to push an equatorial mount around using a finder scope and guide stars to find these things. Fortunately, I've had the experience of doing it, and I can apply that experience to the use of a go-to mount, setting it up, and getting the most out of it, and certainly appreciating how it makes seeing 15 galaxies in a 1 hour period possible when only 4 or 5 might otherwise be turned up. Very nice. Our next study is NGC 4477, galaxy in Coma-Virgo. Little fainter, magnitude 10.4, smaller, 3.7 by 3.3 arc minutes. It's a galaxy of spiral. It's got a bar, but it's also an O-type spiral, which means quite a few of its stars have dark matter have been converted to stars, more like a disk, 60 million light years distant. There is our most detailed view, right there. Once again, I will have to see this thing on the screen to get a better sense of its morphology and extensions. Messier 98 and 99 were duplicates. I'm looking at my list. Here we have Messier 90, a galaxy in Virgo. 9.5 magnitude, large, 9.9 by 4.4 arc minutes, 60 million light years distant. This is another larger than Messier 31 galaxy. We'll have to determine whether it's an elliptical or a spiral. Given the extension on it, though, it's got to be a spiral because elliptical galaxies tend to be oblate. Certainly got spiral arms. They also tend to either be circular or oblate. They don't have spiral arms. Most of their cold dark matter has been converted to stars. Here we're getting a decent view of a spiral galaxy in an oblate position. Presentation. Very nice. We've definitely dropped south into Virgo. This is Messier 86, the galaxy in Virgo at magnitude 8.9 and large. This might be one of our better views for the night. 9.8 by 6.3 arc minutes, some 60 million light years away. And here is our view. Oh, there's an edgy on off to the left too. Wow. I wonder if we're going to pick that one up or if it's one we've already seen. 8.6, by the way, is a nice 8-inch aperture, scope aperture galaxy. Messier 89, also a galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 9.8, is a 10-inch study. Face on, relatively 5.3 by 4.8 arc minutes, 60 million light years distant. Once again, this is probably an M31 size galaxy given its apparent size and distance. And here is our look. Once again, due to poor ergonomic position, I can't do much to describe what you're seeing on the screen. We'll have to have a look at it manana when I have a chance to review the handheld video results. Messier 84 is a galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 9.1, 6.7 by 6 arc minutes, 60 million light years distant. I imagine, I haven't got the number written down here, probably gives a good view through a 10-inch scope. No specification as to type. I'm not seeing any indications of spiralicity. The dimensions are very similar in both directions, probably an elliptical galaxy. It'll be interesting to run a relative brightness calculation on this one, given the fact that ellipticals can be expected to be, well, at least roughly a magnitude brighter in terms of their stellar luminosity density than spirals. Messier 84. NGC 4216, another galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 10, 7.8 by 1.8 arc minutes, a spiral with a large bar, 59 million light years distant, not the usual 60. This may be that edge-on galaxy we saw. No, it looks like it's at a different angle, but you can clearly see this one is highly edgy. Tiny, kind of a small core with large extensions running left and right, but no dark lane visible to me, at least with the handheld from my observing position. I'll have to check it out tomorrow. But always a good look when you see an edge-on galaxy or a full face-on spiral with spiral arms. Like NGC 4216, NGC 4762 is a good 10-inch, 8-inch study, 20 centimeters. Galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 10.3, edgy, 8.6 by 2 arc minutes, 53 million light years distant, so closer to the near edge. It's a spiral with a large bar, but also class O, so it's turned quite a bit of its material, cold dark matter, into stars, but you can see there's a bite taken out of it, a circular hole of cold dark matter, either that or some kind of line of sight obscuration, but a good look. You should see this one look pretty edge-on in a 10-inch scope, or an 8-inch scope, 20 centimeters. Nice view. Messier 58, galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 9.7, largest, 6 by 4.8 arc minutes, probably a M31 size galaxy, 60 million light years distant. This one's probably also a good look in an 8-inch scope. I do believe I'm seeing spiralicity and extensions of the core and some spiralicity. Can't be sure, have to verify that manana. But there we go. It's definitely got a very elongate core, and it looks like it might have a very brilliant H2 region to about 10 o'clock position in terms of the handheld camera. And I do believe there might be something suggesting a ring, but I can't quite be sure of that. Anyway, Messier 58. Okay, M87 should be a bit of a hot tamale. It's gives a good look in a 6-inch scope according to the Astro Geek Joy Deep Sky Atlas. It's a Galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 8.6, that probably explains it, plus it's 8.7 by 6.6 arc minutes in size, the nominal 60 million light years distant. It's not specifying a type. I suspect it's a giant, it's an elliptical, and given its size, 8.7, it's larger than Messier 31. I would say it's got to be roughly about 200,000 to 250,000 light years across. And given its shape, yeah, this guy's brilliant. Probably got a fairly high relative brightness. It's all that crazy stuff I have to do with logarithms and distances and size to figure that out. And the reason I got into all that, by the way, is because they don't publicize the size of galaxies in this database, nor is it easy to find out on the internet, so I've had to come up with that method to do so. Which led, of course, to the whole idea of relative brightness as well, brightness density, as captured in previous videos. Messier 60 is another 6-inch galactic study, Galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 8.8, largest 7.6 by 6.2, 60 million light years distant. Probably as large, if not larger, than Messier 31. The galaxy is right there, visible. It looks kind of like a brilliant elliptical. I'm not seeing any spiral extensions, although I'm seeing some slight nebulosity towards the top of the screen. There's also a satellite galaxy there, and you would expect that in a galactic, in a galaxy group such as a Coma-Virgo group, because they create localized group gravitational fields which inexorably draw the smaller galaxies into under the influence of the more massive ones, which is exactly how these giant elliptical galaxies are created. Combinations of smaller galaxies, gravitationally bound, spiraling in. Oh, I'm now getting a flashing red light. I'm going to have to go back in, charge this baby up, and come back out a little bit later, if not at all. Carpe noctem. It's now 11:30. About 45 minutes of charge on the battery. I think Venus is just about the set. If that isn't a street light over there. Leo is exiting the middle third of the sky. Scope had to do an equatorial flip in order to line up. Arcturus is approaching culmination, and Vega is off to the north and the east. I've aligned the scope on Messier 59 again with equatorially flipped. Here's our view. I just sat down, of course, so it may have deflected the scope a little bit on the floor. I think I've got 5 or 6 more studies left to cover, and the observing plan in the Coma-Virgo galaxy group. And there was, of course, 1/10 magnitude globular cluster listed on this observing list. So let's go ahead and capture the rest of them. Once again, I'm going to capture data on Messier 59, Galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 9.6, 5.3 by 4 arc minutes, 60 million light years distant. Now we're looking at it in the other half of the sky. Appears to be an elliptical, bright elliptical galaxy. Not seeing much in the way of extensions or detail, kind of oblate, so it's probably an elliptical 5 maybe on the Hubble classification index, maybe an elliptical 3, not a perfect sphere, nor is it highly distended like an elliptical 7. But I have to confirm it, although the data is not really available on the database of the hand controller. It goes with the Gemini 2 unit. So let's move on. NGC 4429, another galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 10, 5.8 by 2.8, spiral, 59 million light years distant. Here's our look. It's pretty vertical. You can see it extending. There we go. It's probably the best way to do it now that I'm on the far side of the scope here. You can see it extending off. It says it's a spiral of a subtype A. It looks like it's a ring spiral at a bit of an oblique angle. Very Saturnine, isn't it? Wow. I suspect it's more along the lines of A8. Let me check it out. According to the list, it's a 10-inch study. Oh yeah. I can see some clumping in the extensions. Fairly impressive. NGC 4435 is a galaxy in Virgo. This was adventitious. Didn't have it on my list. Magnitude 10.8, smallish at 3 by 2.2 arc minutes, 54 million light years distant. It's a class spiral of barred, spiral of class O. It looks like it has a neighbor, so I'm glad I stumbled off this. Yeah. I would assume, it's hard to tell, but I suspect that is actually our target galaxy, NGC 4435. I imagine if I do a little research on it on the morrow, I could find out what the other neighboring galaxy is, which is very similar in brightness. So there's a nice double galaxy set of co-equal galaxies. On the nearer edge of the Coma-Virgo galaxy cluster. NGC 4535 was my original intention. It's a galaxy in Virgo. Magnitude 10, largest, 6.9 by 5.4 arc minutes. It's a spiral with a large bar and a core, 67 million light years distant. And, sorry, scope. Here's our look. It's quite faintish, actually. Yeah, but it's got it's kind of hard to say. I'm at a very odd angle here, but it looks like we've got pretty much of a face-on spiral that has some annular component to it. Yeah, wow. Very much like a hub and wheel. Doesn't classify as a rung galaxy, but it sure looks like one. I'll have to check it out on the screen on the morrow. Messier 49, the brightest, probably the largest galaxy of the evening, suitable for a 5-inch telescope. Galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 8.4, very large, 9.8 by 8.2 arc minutes, face on roughly, 60 million light years distant. This one is certainly larger than Messier 31. It's probably about 230,000 light years in size. There's no descriptive lettering associated with it. Clearly, from my perspective, this baby is a giant elliptical galaxy. Very intense, luminous. It'll be interesting to run a expected brightness calculation on it, I would suspect the delta between what its actual magnitude is and what you might expect it to be if it were an M31 intensity galaxy will probably be at least 1, possibly 2 magnitudes. This is probably the mother of galaxies in the Coma-Virgo galaxy cluster. And at some 60 million light years distant, it should be right at the very center of it all. Messier 49. NGC 4526, one of the brighter of the NGC class galaxies, probably should have been discovered but wasn't, by Charles Messier. Galaxy in Virgo. Magnitude 9.7, 7 by 2.5 arc minutes, kind of a tilted, oblitely presented. Spiral of a type O with a bar, 51 million light years distant. And there you go. One side of the contrast bar and the other. Yep, definitely class O. I'm not really seeing spiral arms, but I'm seeing extensions. So it's kind of a cross between an elliptical and a spiral galaxy. And given its size, probably also larger in actual diameter than M31 and more densely rich with stars. So probably maybe a half to a full magnitude brighter overall than Messier 31, the Andromeda galaxy, would be at a comparable distance. There's our view. Well, Messier 61 will be our Carpe Noctem wrap for the evening. Galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 9.6, 6.5 by 5.9, 60 million light years distant. If it's a spiral, it ought to give some nice texture. Otherwise, it will be an elliptical, which will look like a giant globular cluster. It's rated as an 8-inch structure, and it's very clear to me we've got a beautiful face-on spiral galaxy right here in front of us. Oh, there's beautiful H2 knots, dark lanes separating out the spiral arms, which have H2 regions in it. The spirals are winding around in an anti-clockwise direction. Brilliant core. This is probably the view of the night. See if I can't get just the right contrast effect on the screen. What a beauty. This is also a 8-inch study. On an 8-inch scope, you should see that core, and you probably can see the brighter spiral arms heading off towards the 3 and the 8 o'clock positions. Wow, the view of the night. So ladies and gentlemen, sky watchers all, Carpe Noctem to you. And this has been my marathon because we're bumping up pretty close to midnight. But it has been quite a marathon of deep sky studies, in particular the galaxies of the Coma-Virgo galaxy group. Carpe.